everybody. Welcome back to Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen.
Hello.
We are here. We are welcomed by an amazing guest today. So I'm going to let her introduce herself. Do you want to say hi?
Hi, my name is Andrea Bryman. I'm a marriage and family therapist and founder and owner of Bryman Counseling Associates.
Awesome. Okay, so first question, what is Bryman Counseling Associates?
We are a team of mental health professionals. We are licensed in all 50 states in the United States.
Wow.
So we can talk to anybody anywhere in the United States.
Oh.
And we specialize. Our main goal is providing assessments for egg donors and surrogates, gestational and traditional carriers, as well as egg donors and sperm donors. We do consults with intended parents to make sure that they are comfortable with what they're doing and answer any questions they may have during their journey. And then we also provide any kind of ongoing counseling for surrogates or intended parents or anybody dealing with infertility.
Wow, amazing. I have like so many questions.
So you work,
do agencies contact you, or are you specifically working with a certain amount of agencies?
Nope, we have a plethora of agencies, clinics, doctors. Yes, we are talking to people all over the world and all over the US, and we do everything through telehealth.
Okay. Wow, that's nice.
Wow,
that's lovely.
And yeah, everything's through. We have a HIPAA compliant video platform where everybody gets their own portal. They do everything in their portal, log in for their sessions, and agencies, everything's done, so it's all HIPAA compliant.
Okay.
Wow.
And we have appointments 7 days a week, from early morning to early evening. So there's never a time constraint about getting reports or appointments out. I mean, I really, given that I've been doing this so many years, I know I'm just probably jumping the gun, but I've been doing this over 25 years, and it reached a point that I realized that it couldn't just be me. And I knew that there was this need to have therapists in a lot of different states. And I thought the idea of getting licensed in a lot of states, but it was more than I could take on and more than I wanted to do at this point. So I came up with this idea of like, well, what happens if I build a team and mentor and train clinicians in this industry, which has been so much fun, being able to pass on the knowledge that I've had over the years and know that I'm teaching other people to do that. And everybody, and I'm bringing this whole network of clinicians that have a variety of backgrounds, not just in women's health, or reproductive health, but also in trauma, substance abuse, chemical dependency. So we have this great network. So if we're doing a session and one of our therapists has a red flag about something's concerned and doesn't have any background on it, we can reach out to each other and say, hey, can you give me a little advice on this? You know, this woman has, or this person has a history of abuse. You know, she had maybe one session. Do you think, but it was 20 years ago, but we have each other to bounce off from each other. So, so that's what my goal was, like. And then instead of having to refer out to maybe somebody that we didn't know and didn't necessarily know that they would know this industry and just find a random therapist somewhere, my thought was that I want to have someone that in every state, so no one really had to go anywhere, that I knew that intended parents and surrogates would be talking with, and donors be talking to someone that's trained specifically in this field.
Brilliant.
No, that's amazing.
Literally brilliant.
And comforting to know as well.
One stop. Yeah.
Wow. So because you are licensed in every state, but you also work with agencies, what happens if there's an international couple coming from an agency? Are you guys not allowed to?
We do, because we're just doing psychoeducational consults with them. We're not providing any therapeutic services to anybody outside the country. So we could absolutely have a conversation with them.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Because it's more education than anything.
Yeah.
And that's typically what an agency will do, is ask you to provide those services to let's just say it's a surrogate and an IPs to both parties for them, for the agency.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And also we have, I don't mean to be plugging this, but whatever, we're here. So we have therapists that speak 7 different languages also. So I have someone that speaks Mandarin, someone that speaks
amazing
Spanish, Hindu, Punjab, Urdu, Hebrew. So we're,
you are one stop.
That's wonderful. No, that's fantastic.
It is. And So then I just need to back up a little bit. You said you've been doing it for 25 years. How long have you had like this team?
We just finished our first year.
Oh,
We launched a year ago, October. So we are
That's awesome.
yes.
Wow, in a pandemic.
So we started off with like some states, and then we have built, and within just maybe 2 weeks ago, we actually managed to get our last therapist in I think North Dakota.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and you're
North-
thriving,
so-
right? The business is just booming, I would think. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's awesome.
No complaints. No complaints. We're happy.
Congratulations. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Very
Thank
cool.
you.
Very cool.
That is amazing.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
Are
Well,
you
okay.
digging in?
Yeah, I'm gonna like dig in a little bit.
All right, go for it.
What are some red flags then if you're, if you're screening a surrogate or an IP, if there's
First of all, let's talk about IPs and that
Yeah.
I never feel that I'm evaluating intended parents.
Okay.
Our role as mental health professionals, in my opinion, has always been is to educate, because just because someone is dealing with infertility or needs help with third-party reproduction doesn't mean that they should have to be evaluated to be a parent, because anybody that can conceive naturally doesn't necessarily have to go through any kind of psychological check or mental health check. So I always, as someone who went through fertility issues myself, that I had this feeling like if I was sitting in a doctor's office and they said to me, sorry, I have a thing floating there. If they said to me, you need to go get evaluated to be a parent, I would probably see an attorney pretty quickly as a form of discrimination. So really our role is like, let's talk about this, and I want to tell you that if we ever meet with an intended parent that it feels more like they need any kind of counseling or therapy, they absolutely will be referred at that moment to a therapist in that state, because we want to make sure if there's any kind of thing beyond education that there's a clinician licensed in the same state as them. That being said, the whole role of the intended parent is just to educate them, let's talk about, have you thought these things through? Have you thought that through? And what kind of relationship do you want to have with your surrogate? Okay, so let me go back. So there's, for intended parents, for me, there could be a million red flags, but I'm not going to be the gatekeeper.
Okay.
And when I have clinics that say to, or a physician say, well, we want you to talk to them and let us know whether or not we should work with them. My advice is always, you have a private business, you get to decide who you want to work with. I'm not going to be that person.
Perfect. Yeah. No, that's fair. Absolutely.
So do you, because there's got to be HIPAA in there too. Do you provide reports back, or do you just clear? It's kind of like a clear, non-clear. Like
no, for an evaluation, we do a full report.
Okay.
And everybody signs waivers and releases.
Okay.
For intended parents, all we do is provide a clearance letter because most clinics want them to have a session.
Okay.
And so we will provide a clearance letter that they've had a consultation with us.
Got you. Okay.
And then red flags for surrogates, we want to make sure that number one, that they don't have any history of mental or ongoing mental health issues going on that would, everybody, let's just say everybody has some mental health issues, but nothing that's, let's see, we all have some anxiety. We all have a little ups and downs along the way. That happens, but we want to make sure that nobody has any, personality disorders or major life issues, like major psych issues going on. So, so that's one thing we want to make sure, what's the reason for wanting to do this? Why do they want to do it?
Yeah.
Got to be a level beyond financial compensation. There's got to be a level of altruism and really wanting to help someone. We want to make sure that they've had good pregnancies.
Yeah.
Do you have a good support system? Do you have people that will help you through this? How have you dealt with loss in the past if something doesn't go the way that you anticipated? Make sure that they're financially stable.
Right.
So, so basically, you want to make sure that they're financially and emotionally stable through this and have a good support system.
No, that's fair. And what if they had previous postpartum depression? I've been denied places because I had postpartum with my son, but not 3 of my surrogate babies.
I think a lot of that we see, I guess I'm going to, maybe what I'll say is controversial, but I really feel like it comes down to, it's a whole team perspective and not just our perspective. We're not the deciding factor.
Okay.
The question for me is how was it treated? I've had a lot of women that have had postpartum depression, but they say, you know what? I know that I have this. my doctors know about it. I know that I'm going to start medication as soon as I'm after it. I've never, I want to make sure they're not homicidal or suicidal or,
Right.
haven't had anything to that extreme. And then, okay, so you've had this, so why do you want to still do this?
Right.
Right.
Like, really? You still want to do this? But a lot of the women just know that it's an issue for them, and I'm prepared to address it. And I know this part of me. So I guess for our practice, it's really about, okay, so if you've had these issues, is it really, was it baby blues, or was it really postpartum depression?
Right.
And how it was addressed.
Okay.
Okay. No, that's
So
fair.
it's probably case by case.
Yeah.
So it's not an immediate disqualifier, because there's a lot of women that had it like you had it with one child, but didn't have it with others. And
Yeah.
and how aware are you? The key is to be aware of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Because on some agencies, we know that that's a checkoff box. If you have postpartum depression, you check it off. Yes, you really don't even get to explain yourself in some situations. And it's just like, well, we can't work with you. Yeah. Like you said, case by case basis. So that's interesting. I'm glad to hear that's how you
Our philosophy and our practice is that, again, we're not gatekeepers.
Right.
We're one piece of the puzzle.
Right.
So we see someone in a snapshot. As an agency owner, you talk to these candidates multiple times, and then there's attorneys that talk to them, and then there's clinics and nurses and doctors. There's a lot of people that talk to them. So if there's something that we're kind of on the fence with, or it just seems a little odd, I'm going to be the first person to call the referring source and say, hey, what's your thoughts on this? Have you had, do you have a weird feeling about this, or have you experienced this at all? And so again, we're a piece of the puzzle. We're not.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. Because I think back when it was either you passed or you didn't, and that was it, and there was no discussion about it. And I was like, oh, and I always freaked out when I had to go through psych. Always freaked out. And I don't know why, but I just did, because I knew it was that they were holding my life in their hands. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
I know. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I don't ever want it. I've never wanted it to be that way.
Right.
We just like, I'm always like, you're going to be a great candidate unless I hear otherwise. That's my perspective. If you've gotten to the point that we're having this conversation, you got a lot of great things going for you, and and I want to help you, and I want, I tell surrogates from the very beginning, we just want to make sure that you're going to have a good experience doing it. And you might have the best intentions, but if we're having this conversation, and really that's what our psych evals are, they're a conversation, and we want to know about you and who you are, and we want to help you with your decision of whether or not this is going to be a good experience for you or not. Right. And we may have a conversation with surrogates and talk through some things, and they might just be like, I know that you really, really want to do this and your heart was really on it. Let's say they had, history of really bad postpartum depression, or they have some really bad unresolved trauma. Yeah. And, or loss, so how are you going to, that they've never dealt with? Right. How are you going to feel if you have a miscarriage or something happens? And I always tell them, I don't want something unexpected to happen to you and trigger something for you that you don't feel good about it. Because at the end of the day, if you go through this journey, we want you to walk away feeling really good about yourself, not questioning about, oh my God, why did I do that?
Exactly. Right. Do you follow, so you do like the initial screen. Is there any agency that you do some, and what I mean by follow up?
We have some agencies that have us do monthly sessions with
there you go. That was my question.
And then we have another agency that we do monthly group sessions.
Okay.
Great. Nice.
That's awesome. And
we do like postpartum sessions.
Okay. Oh, that's super nice.
That is nice.
Especially if they have some type of baby blues, then they can speak about it there. That's really
nice. It's really nice to have these monthly sessions, because if we in talking with them see like certain things happening, or and it's really nice to have someone to help you mentally prepare for your last trimester, and do you have you really talked through the birth plan? Are you nervous about it, or like I know that they really want you to do this. Are you really comfortable with this? Or, if you don't like jazz and they want you to listen to jazz during the delivery, you're allowed to say, I don't want to listen to jazz.
Exactly.
So
that's great.
I think it's a fine line, helping a carrier feel like she's pregnant and acknowledging she's carrying the baby, but also that balance of that it's not her baby and there's other people involved, and it's a joint journey. It's a journey together. So how do both people feel acknowledged?
Yeah,
Correct.
absolutely. Yeah, because there's a lot of the times it gets cross ties, and so it's yeah, definitely, it definitely helps. So then, do you also host intended parent meetings? Like, I know that some agencies do that as well. Are you guys a part of that?
We're talking about it.
Oh, fun.
Okay, it's on the horizon.
That's
It's on the
cool.
horizon.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing. So do your surrogates have to take a written test and then they go face to face? Like a written evaluation?
Like the back
It depends on the agency.
Oh,
We
okay.
so all of our sessions are telehealth. So there's nothing, you don't go into an office and there's no, and then we also administer, some clinics want their surrogates to take some kind of testing. Often we administer the PAI test.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. That's
Yeah.
normal.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
A few other batteries of tests if they're requested that we do.
Do you find that social media plays a big part in support or I can't even think of the opposite word of support, or just, is it a hinder or is it helpful to have
I
social
would say it was
media?
probably depends on the account that you're
That's fair.
and who's posting. I think it's great. I think it helps normalize things. I think it lets the rest of the world know that you're not the only one going through it. And when you're dealing with infertility issues, or if you're a carrier or a donor, it's really nice to be able to have people to reach out to.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, but my advice has always been when I've talked to donors and carriers and intended parents is when you're online and you're looking at things, just try and stay in the middle, because there's two extremes.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's the extreme people that feel the desire to go on and post. So the real true reaction is probably somewhere in between everything that you're reading.
Correct.
That's fair. No, that's great advice, because it's
Agreed.
social media is very
You
much
could go down some really bad rabbit holes.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So fees that are associated with you guys' services obviously are paid by I would think, the intended parents in whatever package or whatever agreement they've come up with the agency.
Correct.
So are there different, I guess what I'm asking, different tiers? Like what if the IPs want one-on-one with a psychologist, or every month they just want one-on-one? Is that something they have the right to pay for and that you would administer?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, if they want
Something off the table with us when it comes to mental health.
Okay, great.
We can help. We're gonna figure out a way.
Okay.
So she just said psychologist, but I saw that on your social media, you guys say psychotherapist. So is there a difference? Is there like a correct
Yeah,
term?
well, a psychologist is someone that has their PhD or PsyD, has a doctorate degree. And then everybody on our team either has a doctorate degree or a master's degree.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
They know their stuff.
And it's licensed. Yeah, you have to go through a series of licensings.
Oh, that's amazing.
They know their stuff.
We like whipped through all these, so now I'm like, wait, where are we?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're jumping.
Okay. No, you're good. What would someone expect during a session? Like,
I would think it's pretty much you're asking them questions, pretty much a series of questions, and seeing their reaction to it.
The whole purpose is that we're trying to get a picture of who they are.
Right.
Tell us we want a timeline of what your life looks like. You know, what was it like for you growing up? What was your family dynamic like? What's your support system like?
Right.
No,
the support system is
and
huge.
how did you get to be where you are right now? And that's we want to have it, we want to know who's your partner, tell us about your past relationships, and tell us about your children. And
you mentioned the partner. There are some agencies that have the partner come to these sessions as well.
Absolutely.
Okay. Because I think that's
I just kind of follow the guidelines of what everybody requests. When they fill out the referral form, some want it with a partner, some don't. So whatever anybody requests is what we do.
Okay.
So
because that one support person is so huge.
Yeah.
That I would really think they need to be on board, because sometimes the surrogate can kind of, I know from my own experience, I kind of like, yeah, he's on board. And then when push came to shove, and I really got down to the nitty gritty, he was like, you know what, this is a lot. We did 3 of these in 5 years, and I just really never knew that it really took a toll on my husband. I just didn't know that. I just was all being, and quote unquote, selfish, really, because I wanted to do it and I was running out of time, is where I was at with it. Yeah.
I always, in my conversations with carriers, is really encourage them to view it as not something that they're just doing, but that their whole family is doing it. I think it's really important for children and spouses, because you have to decide as a family that you're doing this for another family. Because like you said, it does take a toll. I think it also helps not, well, I don't really want to say place blame if something like you wanted to do this, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But as a family, and I think it's also so important that as a young mother, as most carriers are, that there's very few concrete examples that you can teach your children of what altruism is. And I just think that surrogacy is like the best example of what, so, and to empower your children to be able to feel good. And it helps with the transition as well. It helps explain, you know, here we are as a family helping another family. So they feel part of it. They never feel like their mom's being taken away or their mom loves this baby more than they love them. So I really encourage carriers to include their children, even if they're very young. I mean, but they still can be part of it. And same with their partner. I mean, that's, the partner needs to be on board too. They need to realize that there's going to be a lot of sacrifice in the process. But
Kennedy
the
was
amazing
5.
rewards of being able to help someone that wouldn't be able to have a child. You know?
So true. Kennedy was 5 when I started surrogacy, and she just, I didn't realize how much it was affecting her in a positive light. I mean, I really tried to include all my kids, but I had older ones. They were going to high school. And I was like, whatever. She really was very interested in all of it. And so to think down the line that she would be a surrogate, never, ever did I. But when I heard her tell why she wanted to be one, I grew up with it. And I just saw how it helped another family. Like that stuck with her since she was like 5. And I just never, I really never knew that until we started talking about all that stuff. Yeah. It's very interesting. So like
she didn't know any different. This is how it was.
And it was considered normal in our family. Very, very normal. Yeah.
So normal.
So yeah, it's kind of cool.
Wow. So, okay. So you just said this is like a whole, this is like a whole family thing, especially if you have kids and your partner, like you're all going through this. So something that is very controversial is having that alone time with the baby after the baby is born. Look at your face. Yes,
yeah, it is.
Very controversial. And
why do you say it's controversial? What's controversial?
A lot of
IPs.
More often than not, I do find that people are accepting of it and is like, yes, like you can have time. They're a little bit leery, but they're like, no, they're eventually given the advice from the agency or the psychologist, like, no, the surrogate and her family need closure. But there are groups of people that are like, no, like, why would you do that? That's so like inappropriate. The baby's not yours. And they're just not really getting the whole closure factor of, especially if you have a little kid, this what was in mommy's tummy, and now here it is.
And I don't even necessarily know if it's closure is the word, because it's just,
it's a part of the journey.
It just provides an answer.
Yeah.
You know, there is, I think maybe it's more of a completion. Cycle completion, you know. I mean, especially for young children. So there's never this like, where did the baby go? That's why I always say, you know, include your family, let them see who the intended parents, as long as the intended parents are open, to let them see. So there's never this like, what do you mean you had a baby? Where did it go?
Right.
So there's always a sense of where the baby went. I know that in terms of in today's world with COVID and all the restrictions that came up, there's a lot less opportunities for families to be able to spend time with it. It's really more the carrier and maybe her partner rather than children. And you know what, even before COVID, there was always policies of, you know, young children coming into hospitals.
Yeah, there was.
So, and some of this is going to vary from relationship to relationship. And sometimes, you know, the families can get together before, if they're traveling to another state or afterwards. And, you know, the relationships, there's so many great relationships when people have continued, but the ones that aren't, I think it is important. It's only fair.
Yeah.
It's only, I don't know, fair, like what's fair? I mean, it just is reasonable. It's considerate. It's thoughtful. To be able to provide that opportunity for a carrier who has who has just delivered a baby for you that
Mhm.
is full of hormones and has made a sacrifice. Yes, there's that compensation, emotional and financial and all the things that go with that. To have that respect for this person to say, okay, take a look at what you did for us.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Because, you know, you're, as an intended parent, you're entrusting your surrogate for at least 9 months, to actually carry your baby. So, you know, having a surrogate ask for an hour to just say goodbye or whatever that surrogate needs for herself. I
Yeah,
think
hello
is
and
so-
goodbye. Hello and
Yeah,
goodbye. Welcome to the
exactly.
world, little one.
Yeah.
You
Like-
know, it's been great,
Yeah.
and you're gonna have a wonderful life. And
Mhm.
and you guys are both carriers, so you know that feeling. It's not always sad. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
like beautiful. Like
Yeah.
like we've had a good run here.
Yes.
Yes.
It's like what you said, completion. It's just like, it's done. We've ended it. We've ended it great. Goal was met. And now you go on.
Yeah,
and
just a
do
new
it again.
transition. It's more of
Yeah.
a transition, I think,
Yes, exactly.
for the baby and for the carrier.
Mhm.
You know, and everybody's going to handle it a little bit differently. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been parts of conversations where, you know, kind of parents want to hold the baby first, carrier wants to hold the baby first.
Interesting. Okay.
That's a tough one.
I'm not getting in the
That's a
middle of
tough
that one
No,
at
right?
all.
No.
So
We're
in
not-
that, if you do run into something like that and they ask for your and not your advice, but could you mediate between the two parties? You make the two parties figure it out, or the
No,
agent.
we can have that conversation. Just, I think that everybody has to be heard.
Okay.
Right.
I think that you have to figure out a way for everybody to have this discussion. So everybody's needs, you know, obviously both people feel strongly about it. It's not going to happen for one of them.
Right.
So let's have a conversation about how everybody's, you know, needs are going to be met.
Right.
You know?
And I'm just curious, do you hear a lot that surrogates want to hold the baby first? They want the baby up on their chest? I don't hear that either.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Okay. Okay. That's
We do get it.
Yes.
do.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Of course. Of course.
And I think some of the hard things that had happened over the last couple of years also is carriers that are delivering by themselves because of COVID, and a lot of international couples or parents not being able to come pick up the babies for a while.
I know.
And then carriers who've offered to take care of the baby until the intended parents come.
Wow. That's a lot.
It is a lot.
Oh, it's a lot. And
There's-
carriers had to do that. Yes.
Some did, some
Yes.
did.
More
Some
power to 'em.
a lot of times agencies or intended parents found guardians to
Okay.
take custody of, you know, of the
Yeah.
child. But there was cases where they felt comfortable with their carrier, and the carrier's like, I'm happy to bring the baby home. And I just think that's another level of emotional toll that
Yeah,
needs to be addressed if that happens.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my God. Yeah. Didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? And it's so funny because when you, and I'm sure you guys know this, I just always feel like when you talk in general public about what do you do for a living, and you talk about surrogacy and donation, and it's definitely not a gray subject, right? Because people definitely have opinions. It's not people are like, oh, that's really interesting.
Right.
No, it's never. It's
Right.
always, it's not one of those topics for men and women are like, oh my God, I could totally do that. Or, oh my God, I could never do that.
Right.
And it's so funny. Sometimes men are like, oh, I could totally do that. And a woman would be like, what? I could never do that. I could never
Right.
give away my baby. And then it's like, but it's not your baby.
Right.
Yeah. And,
Right.
you know, or it's like, you know, I would be afraid that, or I could never use a carrier because I feel like they're going to keep my baby.
Oh,
Keep the baby. I'm like, it doesn't happen. They don't.
Yeah.
That's why there's that emotional support, and that's why there are clinicians involved in this process to help with that process.
Right.
And as you guys both know, as previous surrogates, you know, so many people like, I love being pregnant, but it's so awesome to go home and not have to get up all night long with the baby.
absolutely.
Like, I think that's the part that people don't realize. It's like, I love being pregnant. I love the childbirth process. I love this whole thing about helping others.
Mhm.
But it's awesome to be able to deliver a baby and go home and sleep through the night.
You got
Yes.
it. Yep.
And
Even
your
though your
cover.
3-year-old and your 5-year-old are jumping on you, but it's different.
Yeah.
They're still going to probably sleep through the night.
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
And you're
Exactly.
not changing a gazillion diapers and screaming and dealing with colic and all the other things that go along with it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What is something that you that you typically would say to an intended parent if they're saying, oh my gosh, like our fear is that she's going to change, the surrogate wants to change her mind and keep the baby or something.
Yeah, that's why you have contracts in place.
Yeah,
that's why,
right.
That's would definitely be a breach.
And they don't want to. I'm telling you, baby carriers do not want to keep the babies. They
I
don't.
know.
They
Why
don't.
would we
They
go
are
through
so
all
happy.
those?
They are so happy at the end of those 9 months.
Yep.
You guys can both attest to that.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
it's been great. I'm
There
ready.
you go.
Yeah. See you
This
later.
is what I got into this for. Here you go. Let me see
Yeah.
your reaction. Awesome. Yeah.
Exactly.
Enjoy.
Oh my gosh.
Love
Yeah.
it.
Um,
All right. So did you always know that you wanted to be a marriage and family therapist? Like, was that something high school, or did that come in when you were in college? You went, hey.
so I got my undergraduate degree in international relations and French.
Wow.
I
Okay.
know. And I finished college and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. It's kind of like, that's great. I got a job offer from a financial firm. I had studied a year in Paris, and I got an offer from a financial firm for a position in Paris for 5 years. And I was like, no, I don't know. I said, like, I'm like, no, thank you. I had this fear that I would fall in love with someone in France, in Paris, and live there, and that's where my life would be. And my family was in the US, and I was kind of like, it's 5 years. I'm like, I'll be like 20, 21 to like 26, and like it didn't make sense to me. And I knew that I ultimately wanted to live here in the US. So anyway, so I did some, I don't know, work like everybody does right out of college, and
Yeah.
I was looking to do something with my time. Like, I felt like I had free time. I wanted to give back, and I started doing some volunteer work at I don't even know what you would call it now. They do foster care, they do group home foster care, a lot of child placement services.
Okay.
I just started asking where I could volunteer, and I ended up getting involved in this organization that was called Grandparents as Parents. They were grandparents that, for whatever reason, their grown children could not raise their children, and now they were ready to reach retirement years and settle in, and here they are with little children. So I started getting involved in this organization, and they're like, here, will you hang out with the kids and work with the kids while the grandparents are having their support sessions? And
okay.
I was just like, you know what, I really love this. And then I went back and got my master's, and then
Look
I
at
worked
that.
in geriatrics. I worked with people dying with AIDS.
Wow.
That was the bulk of my first few years of worked at the LA Free Clinic. And then I did inpatient psych. So I got to build up all my diagnostic skills really quick.
Wow.
Headed up the assessment department then. And while I was doing inpatient psych, that's when I was trying to try and have my children and hit some roadblocks. And sitting in my doctor's office one day after, I think, my 4th miscarriage, and I was like, gosh, you should really have someone in your office for people to talk to, because this is an emotional roller coaster.
Yeah.
And at that time, 20, a long time ago, he's like, well, I absolutely agree with you, but my partners still feel like, there's 2 schools of medicine. There's Eastern medicine and Western medicine, and mental health still falls under Eastern medicine, and I can't get a buy-in yet. And I was like, I'm just saying from a business perspective, and I feel like I'm a pretty emotionally stable person, but this is like a roller coaster. And I don't know, I went in, I got pregnant and had my daughter, and he, during that process, he said, hey, would you ever want to come talk to my clients? I think it'd be great to have someone like you. Wow. And I'm like, yes, but then I got pregnant.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm ready, let's go. And he's like, oh, no one's going to want to talk to you while you're pregnant.
Right. Because they're struggling.
Yeah. And he goes, he's like, I want you to enjoy your pregnancy. You don't need to hear everybody's stories. So I went and had my daughter, so I had her. And that's kind of how things started. Wow. And I just got my practice from there. And I just, one day he's like, how could you screen a donor? I don't know what's involved. And really, there was not a lot of information. There was, some basic, ASRM guidelines. And then there was Linda Covington's book, Infertility Counseling. So I read that from cover to cover, and ASRM, took all my my background, my assessment tools, and my knowledge of working in patient psych and assessing people, and just kind of came up with my own tools and knew what I was, and then it just evolved. And
wow.
And I always tell people, if you're going to
tricky.
work in the field of mental health, this is the best field to work in, because it's all about people helping people.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all like, for the most part, yes, there's some sadness,
Yeah.
but you're helping people on their journey. I mean, there is loss, but you're really helping dreams come true and helping people. So it's really, I love what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. You can tell. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
it's awesome. You just
Oh,
you
yeah.
exude it. It beams
Yeah.
off of you. Yeah. It's cool. It's very
Can
cool.
I kind of ask like a I wouldn't say it's a hard question, but it's a tough thing that surrogates go through at times when they do have a miscarriage. And I'm sure that you get, it's what did I do? What could I have done?
Absolutely.
Is there advice
I
that you
always
give?
remind carriers that this is not going to be your regular pregnancy. This is not going to be your typical pregnancy, because you're not conceiving naturally. This is not, you're taking medication to get your body. You are putting a foreign entity in your body. You have no idea how your body's going to react to having foreign entity put in you. You don't, there's so many variables that you have no control over it. And one of the things that we discuss in our joint sessions with intended parents and carriers is realizing that if there's a loss, there's going to be, both parties are going to experience it a little bit differently. I mean, and I tell intended parents, listen, surrogates become surrogates because they have good pregnancies. They do pregnancy well. So if there's a failed transport, if there's a miscarriage, there's going to be this sense of urgency often to want to try again, because it's like, I don't know what happened. I know I can do this. I do it. Like, I get pregnant all the time. I have babies. Like, this is why I do it. I don't know what happened. And there's a sense of urgency. Like, let's do another transfer quickly. And then on the flip side, there's intended parents who have this often have a long history of loss, and are kind of like, oh my gosh, this is another loss. And so I try and explain that you guys might not be on the same page at the same time. So I tell intended parents, if your carrier and her husband are reaching out to you, which feels like incessantly, like, why are they bugging me? They're so insensitive. It's not because they feel that way. It's because they really, really want to help. And there's this sense of like, I know I can do this. And then I tell carriers that if you're not hearing back from your intended parents as quickly as you like, to understand that it doesn't mean that they hate you and they think that you're a terrible person. It's just that they might need this time to process a loss. So you guys, or it might be vice versa. It might be intended parents that are just like, okay, I've signed on to have a surrogate. This was supposed to be my end game, and I don't care what it takes to get there. Let's just keep going. And then for carrier, it might be the first time that they've ever experienced anything like this, and it's like, and they might need time to process.
Right. Exactly.
And for all parties, I always try and explain that the world of infertility teaches us these great lessons of not having control. Because there's so many things about building a family and having a child that we have no control over. And if you can embrace that and learn that part about yourself, about things that you can't control, and just accept it. I always tell people it's going to make you a much better person and a much better parent. Because our children love it when we're not controlling them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sometimes the best things happen when when it's out of control.
Like, but it's so awful. It's such an awful feeling.
Especially for a type A personality who always has to be in control, which I am. And it's like, no, we have to organize here. And
I always tell people it's okay to feel that way. Just say it out loud. Say it out loud. Like, don't expect, like, if it's a thing for you, and it comes in waves. And I think, as an intended parent, where you have to sit and wait and you don't have control, it comes in waves. Sometimes you feel like, try and figure out something that you really do have control over. Go do that. Or, say to your partner, I really just need to be this way right now, because that's my coping mechanism.
Good advice.
And I don't think that you have to always apologize for your feelings. And I think it's really important for all parties involved to remember that you can feel a lot of things at the same time. And I think people forget that. It's like, why don't I feel happy? Like, I'm happy when I'm sad. Well, that's okay. Like, that's human process. That's the human experience. You can feel happy, sad, excited, nervous, anxious, all at the same time.
Yeah.
and that it's okay to feel those things, and it's better to have a lot of emotions and try and compartmentalize things. Like, okay, for this half hour, I have to
Right.
what I mean?
Exactly.
Hey, are you at liberty to share? Don't give me names, but how many surrogate agencies you do work with? Is there a handful? Do you work with a ton?
We probably agencies, I'd say we probably work with like 200 or 300 different agencies.
Wow. Okay.
The
And
fact
then
that
you
there's
also,
that many.
what'd you
For
say?
us estimate, like, yeah.
And then do you also get referrals coming in from law firms that deal with surrogacy?
Law firms, clinics,
Clinics.
clinicians.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you guys take on independent journeys as well?
Yes, we do.
Oh, you do. So if somebody wanted to go to you, would that be coming through an intended parent, or would that be coming through a
And we get, clinical often refer intended parents directly to us, and we'll help them.
Okay.
Hey, we're going to we have a carrier, or often a lot of times we'll like a repeat carrier that's doing an independent journey in this time, and they've gone to their intended parents and said, hey, I did my psych eval with Andrea Bryman, I had a great experience. You guys, why don't we just work with them again? And we'll do it that way.
That's lovely to hear.
So everything that we've done up to this point of my recent launch has all been word of mouth. So
Really?
it's been a great journey. It's been a great experience. And like I said, it's
And you're just on your stuff. You know what? I mean, you are a
not
wealth
everything. I'm
of
human.
information. Yeah.
There's moments I've made some mistakes along the way.
Yeah, we all have.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
But
we might have missed that.
I wanted to say,
And
Andrea,
I think another thing that's really hard, and I think that's really important for people to remember, is that we do a one-time assessment, and sometimes something will come up along the way after we've done the evaluation. Like a clinic will have medical records that'll say that they had a history of something that we didn't have in our report. But here's the deal. All of us, when we talk to people, there's got to be this level of trust. If someone doesn't disclose something, we don't know it.
right.
That's challenging.
Yeah, because if it comes up later,
or we say, we come right out and say, do you have any history of any mental health issues?
Yeah.
Anything with anxiety, depression, substance abuse, alcoholism, any kind of, anything. Have you ever taken any psychotropic medications? Like, we go through all of this in our conversations.
Right.
And a lot of times, maybe we're too casual, maybe or they're nervous, like you said, because that's what I was, and I always tell people, and that's one of the things that I've always loved about doing telehealth, that I feel like people are a little bit more relaxed than sitting in an office. And I have a lot of colleagues that were concerned that you couldn't read body language. You weren't getting, if you didn't see someone face to face. But my feeling was like, when I saw people in my office, people were so nervous and anxious that they sat like that, and that their body language just told me that they were anxious and nervous. Right. But if I'm talking to someone in their home and their kids are coming in and jumping on them, and they're in bed, sitting on their bed, talking to me on their computer, or partners, I don't know, it's just everybody's more relaxed.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And you seem very approachable. You seem very straightforward, I'm going to ask you the questions. Let's have a conversation. Whereas when I did my psych evals, I didn't feel that at all. I felt like I was under a microscope, like that, but that was again, 25 years ago. I just felt like I couldn't say anything right.
Well, I was doing it 25 years ago too.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get you. I had the luxury of having you. But yeah, that's all I remember, because if I have to say the part that I did not enjoy the most was the psychological part of the screen, of when I had to screen, and because I felt like I
know people always would come and be like, I'm so nervous.
I couldn't be me, but I needed to be me. There was just that line. I couldn't figure it out. I was like, now
I think there's that fear also. And I never know how to put it to rest, but it was kind of like, I'd ask a few questions and then I'd be like, just so you know, this is what it's going to be like. Okay. I don't have any surprises coming at you. I think it's that fear of, where is this conversation going? Mm-hmm. What's the next question?
Yeah.
Agreed.
And, and I'm kind of like, see these type of questions, there's no surprises. Like, I just want to know about you. Yeah. We're just going to decide together whether or not this is the right thing for you to be doing. Right. And, and I think that we talked before we got on the call a little bit about advocating, and it's so important. And I really feel it's important to empower donors and carriers and tenant parents to advocate for themselves, for themselves.
Yeah.
Even though you have an agency and you have attorneys, you have physicians, you have a team, the only person that's really looking out for you is you.
Yeah.
There are no stupid questions. And I'm not saying that people don't have people's best interest at head. So don't get me wrong, because there's everybody's great in this. But I find, like, when I'm asking a question, if I bring up the subject of an amniocentesis,
Right.
I'll say to a carrier, so how do you feel about having an amniocentesis? And they'll be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's when they do that. Okay.
Right.
And then I say, okay, do you know what an amniocentesis is?
Right.
No.
Oh.
And then I'm like, no, stop right here.
Yeah.
And then, and I'm like, don't say yes to anything that you don't know what it is. You're going to have so many terms coming at you and so many questions. Ask what it is.
Yeah.
Don't say yes. I could have just said, they're going to drill a hole in your head and take out, you know, take out, you don't know what I'm asking you. If you don't know what it is, say, wait a second. I don't know what this is. If you're reading something in your contract and you don't understand what it is, if you're in a doctor's office, say, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. Can you explain it to me?
Yeah.
There's no silly questions, you know. When years past, I have conversations about if you have to be on bed rest, do your education before you sign your contract. Right. See what it's going to cost for you to have someone help you take care of your kids, because chances are you're going to get a contract and there'll be a number in there about what you'll be reimbursed for. Well, educate yourself, make sure that that's adequate. And because I don't want you coming out of this being, oh my God, I'm out all this money because I signed this contract and they put in there 5,000, whatever the number is, and $5,000, and it's going to cost me $10,000. I've got to go. I went into preterm labor. I've got to be in the hospital. I'm pregnant with twins and I'm in the hospital for 3 weeks, and my husband can't do this, or I'm a single mom. I don't have any, my mom can't stay them 24/7 with my kids. Price it out, call around, find out what an hourly rate, what is a daily rate, what's a long-term rate. And you don't have to, you can say, hey, I'm not trying to be a pig about this, but I did my homework, and I can't at the end of the day be out, and this is kind of what I need. And that's kind of like, educate yourself before you sit down. And just because it's in your contract doesn't mean you have to say okay. And you guys both know that it's easier to have these discussions before you sign a contract than after you sign your contract.
Yes.
Yeah. Fetal reduction was a big thing back in the day, like let's say 20 years ago, Andrea. And I had to deal with that. We had 3, we got triplets. They put 4 in, 3 took, woohoo, yay. None of us expected it because the doctor said, give you a 15% chance of getting pregnant. So I signed away like, oh yeah, the parents can decide fetal reduction, because I never, ever thought it would happen, ever. And here we go. Now we're dealing with it. And they decided to do it. And I just I didn't know how to deal with it. And so I just went through the motions and did the steps. And ultimately we ended up having the 3 because we had a hematoma and it ruptured when we were looking for which baby was going to be reduced. That's not why I got into surrogacy. I gave in surrogacy to do life, give life, not take it away. And that was the hardest conversation, but I felt like I wasn't supported on it. Now, these days, I know they're only putting 1 in, and that usually doesn't come to fruition. But sometimes
it happens. There are still people that are putting 2 embryos in. And there's doubles or splits or.
How is that? Do you talk about that in your sessions?
Absolutely, talk about it. Okay. Absolutely, we talk about it.
Yeah. What do you find most surrogates are saying? Like, well, I don't know.
Well, again, like you just said, most people are doing single embryo transfer, but it happens. And you know what? I tell them that you're entitled to, don't answer what you think everybody wants to hear.
Right.
Because you're going to be the one that's going through this. And at the end of the day, you have to feel comfortable with it. And it's so important that you have this discussion now than afterwards. And if you, at the time came and you needed to do this, if you're not comfortable with it, say it now, then maybe this isn't the right match for you.
There you go. Right.
Might not be the right match for you. And, and we hear everything. We have, we're totally comfortable, whatever the intended parents want to say. It's, I'm open to doing whatever they want, or I'll only do it, sometimes they'll go, oh, I'm only do it for, if it's medically necessary. So then it's like, what does that mean?
Right.
Some people are like comfortable with Down syndrome. I'm not, oh no, Down syndrome, I would never do that for, but so like that's an imminent life-threatening medical condition. Or then there's people that are like, I won't even do it even if my own life is at risk.
Wow. Scary. Yeah. It's a
Wow.
hard conversation. It's a very hard conversation.
Yeah, it's important. You have to have
Yeah,
it.
have to have it.
Yeah.
I
No,
just felt like
yeah.
it wasn't
I've
discussed
had
way back
cases
when.
that we didn't do the eval on where I've
Mhm.
got called in afterwards and said,
Okay.
hey, you know what? There's a, the just kind of like you just said, the carrier said that they would reduce and the intended parents want to reduce. Tomorrow's appointment. And now the carrier
Oh.
won't do it. Can you
Right.
talk to her?
Whoa.
No, I mean, she's not going to do it. She doesn't have to do it. It's her body. I'm not going to be the person to call and say, try and convince her to do something that she's not comfortable. I'll help her and I'll support her, whatever she wants to do, but I can't
Change your
force
mind.
someone to do something.
Right. Yeah. And back then it was, you're going to be in breach of contract. You're going to be in breach of contract. And it was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And luckily it did work out. But I think they were being talked to on the agency side of it. There was only one set of triplets that were born in that agency prior to me being pregnant with triplets. And I just think they were like, oh dear God. They're like, let's just do twins. And I have a great relationship with these IPs and with their kids. But back then it was super, super scary. And I felt like I was out on an island floating. I was like, what are my rights? I don't have any. I signed them away. It's just a hard one. And I know, yeah, it does. It triggers stuff because you're like,
Yeah.
I remember that day vividly doing the
I'm
whole
sure.
thing.
I'm sure.
Yep. Sad, very sad. But luckily we got all three. So we were good. But just curious if that happens to come up. But it does.
I do have kind of like a follow-up question with that. So if there comes a time in the journey where the surrogate and the intended parents are no longer getting along, communication is just not there. Are they sent to you to like have
Sometimes I do. I have those. So we'll do some mediation and we try and get people back on track. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
So sometimes it just becomes, okay, what's the healthiest way to manage the rest of this journey? And sometimes it's just through an agency or through attorneys but I always encourage, maybe both parties have somebody for them to talk to.
Yeah.
From a mental health perspective to help them so they don't feel, I don't think a carrier should ever feel like it was their fault, and intended parents shouldn't feel like they're sad that they're missing out on things that they want to know about.
Right.
There's a lot of personalities involved and a lot of emotions. And
yep.
Yeah.
No, there are.
Sad. And sometimes it's just misconceived conceptions, like people are just misunderstanding each other. That really, and it just takes a little conversation to get back on track, which I felt wasn't.
And I always encourage people, don't make assumptions. Just because you think that's how it is doesn't necessarily mean that's how. It's kind of like we were just talking about losses. Don't assume that they hate you or they think you're a rotten person. It just means that they're processing. Just don't make assumptions, even on the simplest things. If you're wondering something, if you haven't heard back from somebody, or it might not be about you. It might be something completely different.
Exactly.
Yeah, or intended parents. I haven't heard from the carrier. She was just at her appointment and she was supposed to call me right after. Well, maybe her 3-year-old, maybe she got a call from preschool, or 3-year-old's got 104 fever and she had to run right away to go pick up, who knows what it is.
Exactly.
Right.
Because after all, life just keeps going on. It doesn't just stop because we have pregnancies with surrogacy. Keeps going. All right. Did we work all through it?
No, I have one more. I have one more question.
You keep going. I have all day. I have no other appointments right now, so we're good.
What are some of the best ways to stay busy during the hurry up and wait periods? Do you have any advice on that for intended parents, especially, or because they're so ready to get started? I know surrogates are too, but
I know everybody is. It's so hard. It's so hard. I wish I had the answer.
I know.
I wish I could,
You're
someone who went through it.
Yeah.
Is just, there's just find ways for self-care. I mean, self-care is so important. What are the things that you like to do? What are things that you think that, it's hard because you never want to sound trite to someone. You never want to say, oh, go take a vacation, take your mind off things. I mean, it's such a terrible thing to say to someone. They're like, you don't get it. So, I mean, the most important thing that I'd like to tell people is just acknowledge that you're feeling it, that it's okay, that what you're feeling is normal. There's no way to mask it.
Yeah.
Are there things that you do on a daily basis? Yeah. Do you journal? Can you start a story for your unborn child? Could you, I mean, people like to exercise, or, you know, here's an opportunity to travel before you have a child, or, you know, but at that point, so many people are like, I've taken so many freaking trips. I don't want to take another.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just such a fine line about, I mean, I think use that time to be introspective and start understanding triggers and things that, and if there's certain things that trigger you, avoid them.
Yeah.
You know, people always feel like I have to deal with these things right now. It's like,
Oh.
no, you don't.
Mm-mm.
You don't have a conversation. No, you don't.
Yeah.
If you're dealing with something highly emotional like this, and you don't want to be at, you got invited to somebody's baby shower, and it's gonna be hard for you, don't go.
Yeah.
Take care of
Yeah.
yourself. So I guess self-care is
advice.
probably the best advice I can give. And do, you know, you don't have to be a perfect person, and do the right thing at any time, and acknowledge that it's hard, and use your support system.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's your support system. You know, whether it's your partner, or your single mom, it's your best friend, or a sibling, or your parents, or
Yep.
whoever it is.
I don't think people realize how much the support people do come into play. You really don't realize it until you're in the
You had to do it yourself.
Yeah.
You have to do it all yourself.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
But we all try. We're supposed
We
to.
do. I know.
We do. We're very reluctant to reach out, but when we have to, it's your core people.
You know, it's interesting. I know I'm totally going off topic.
You're good.
Like I had these like thoughts that simmer in my mind sometimes, that I like this whole concept of people wanting to help and people asking for help.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like when someone says, can I help you? And you say no, it's kind of like you're not allowing someone in, and it's also taking away from that person that wanted to help. It's sometimes it's equally as rewarding to help someone as it is to be able to accept help. And I
agreed.
I know it's really philosophical, but it's like this thought that I play around in my head all the time, is this balance of people feeling okay to ask for help, and because you're just like, do you need anything? No, I'm good. I'm good. And not realizing how it's received on the other end of someone asking to help.
Yeah.
Right.
And where it could be beneficial for both parties, you know, and it's okay to say, yeah, I would love to embrace you. I would love your help.
Yeah.
Yep. More of us need to do it. More of us need to accept it when people offer. We really do.
Yeah, our immediate response, you know, we're strong women, we're powerful. We're like, you know, we're go-getters and energetic and multitaskers. And it's like the sign of weakness, but it really is. It's really, I think it's all how we perceive it. And if we could get to a point where we allow ourselves to it's kind of like, no, I don't want to let you into my life. It's okay.
Yeah, but like you said, it's taken as a sign of weakness, and that's been a stigma of mental health. Like it's
right. How about it's like, that would be great. Let's figure out how you can help me. Like, why is our immediate response to saying no to say, no, I got it.
Right.
But maybe you don't.
We're supposed to do it all.
Yeah.
Moms and women are supposed to be able to do it all. I don't know where that came from, but as I get older, that rock, we keep chipping that away, because I'm like, yeah, no, you want to help? Yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'm tired. The energy I have is like when I was 25. I'm tired.
Yeah. Hello. I just expanded my practice. I'm not doing it all.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
And it can be so rewarding. It can be so. It's a good life lesson for me.
Amazing.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Love it. Oh, this has been fun.
I know. You're such a
it's just the light
information.
You are.
Don't ask my husband and kids. They might tell you otherwise.
Wouldn't they all though? Oh my God.
Can we ask, how can someone get a hold of your agency if they need you, or if they want to use your services? Or
absolutely. Our website's Bryman Counseling.
Bryman Counseling.
Yep. You can Google us, Bryman Counseling Associates. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Our numbers, our office number is 310-400-6309. I had to think about that. I never remember.
And Bryman is Bryman.
Correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. And we're available like I said, 7 days a week from early morning to the early evening. We try and, because we do it telehealth, we want to be able to accommodate everybody's schedules. People can do it on the weekends. They can't, if they have their partner, I'm not a bit, or donors are in school or working, we do it lunch hours. So it's been great. All kinds of different time zones.
Yeah.
So if somebody is in, I'm just gonna use 2 different places. So if somebody's in Texas and they go on your website and they go through it, right? Are they gonna talk?
They're gonna be matched. Yeah, they'll be matched with the Texas. So what'll happen is if they're scheduled in Texas and they need to see a Texas therapist, then it'll say in the form, and then our system will open up our calendars, our Texas therapist calendars, and they'll only be able to schedule appointments with those.
Wow. Fancy.
Wow. Okay.
That's nice.
Super nice.
Cool.
Wow, you congratulations, to succeed all of that in a year. Like
what a niche,
phenomenal.
and you just nailed it. Like that's phenomenal.
Thank you.
Sure.
And you're just gonna keep growing.
That's our hope.
You are.
Our hope. We want to make sure that everybody gets quality care wherever they talk to, wherever they are.
Love it. Yeah, I love it.
My gosh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if you have any questions for us.
No, I'm here along the way. If whatever whatever route or direction you guys head, or if you have any, listeners or people that reach out to you, and they come to you confident they want answers to something, you can always shoot me a message. You know how to reach me, and I'm happy to help in any way that I can.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, you're really helping the community, honest, and it's gonna change. That's the whole goal. I think everybody, every surrogate, is to change the conversation of surrogacy, because it has such a interesting stigma on it, and you're helping it.
I wish there wouldn't be a stigma. I think it's amazing. I guess I'm biased because I've been doing this so long, and the majority of my day is spent talking to amazing women like both of you, to meet people. Like I said, this field is amazing. To in this world of chaos and craziness that we live in, that there's people that want to help others. It makes me emotional, because I've talked to so many women that have endured such crappy things in their lives, and somehow have persevered to a point that they still have this ability to want to do something good for somebody else, where some people would have just become so miserable and angry, and then these women have turned their lives into something so amazing. Or forget that, but just that there's people there that really want to help other people, and it's just renewed every day. I wake up every day, and one of the things, so in my practice, so I have all these therapists, but I review every report that goes out. So there's always a second set of eyes that looks at the report, sometimes 2 or 3. Sometimes I have another therapist review it, and then I look it over also. So I look at every report that goes out. So it's still my name on the practice. And I still have my expertise, and I still sometimes I'll say, well, let's get some more information about this. So I read stories every day, 7 days a week. And that was the thing that I hadn't figured out, is that where I was trying to find balance in my life is that, where I used to work 5 days a week. Now our practice opens 7 days a week. That there's a lot more reports going out. So but it's awesome. It's just,
it is.
So it's
phenomenal.
I ultimate, so much information for carriers.
I think people listening to this podcast, and Kennedy will tell you when it's going to go up. I can't even think of another word other than you're just approachable. You're approachable. There's a stigma, on mental health. There's a stigma on people who are going to try to open you up and peel you back layer by layer to figure out who you are. I don't get that.
Don't you think, when this is what I always would tell people also, is that when you sign up to be a carrier, you're not signing up for mental health counseling.
Right.
No, you're not.
You're signing up to help somebody and have a baby, and all of a sudden they're like, you have a psych eval, and they're like, and you think that you're going into, you're going to see Sigmund Freud, and you're going to go into psychoanalysis. What is this shrink going to say about me? What are they going to find out about me? I'm not going to really find out anything that you're going to tell me, anything that you don't already know about yourself.
And
again, the whole purpose of this is to make sure that you're going to have a good experience doing it.
Absolutely.
That's the bottom line. To me, that's the role, is that everybody's going to have a good experience.
And I love hearing that, because 22, 23 years ago, in my experience, that really wasn't it. It was make sure the IPs have a good experience and you're just going to carry. And that's exactly how I felt.
You're not going to have a good experience if the carrier's not having a good experience.
And just to see that change is lovely. It's beautiful to see, because I see how Kennedy was treated as well. It really changed it. It was more, hey, we got to worry about the IPs and the surrogate, not just the IPs and how they're dealing with it. Because again, they hold the price tags. They're the ones who are the financial aspect of it. And that's how
I never viewed it like that. And I mean, I'm so humanistic. It's all about the person that you're with talking to.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
If you guys, if you ever want to do like a question and answer with carriers, I'm happy to do that too.
Oh my gosh, that would be
Or
amazing.
independent parents or whatever. We
Yeah.
could do something fun like that. That might be fun.
Oh my gosh, I think that would be
On
awesome.
a couple of my therapists also, so we could do like, panel. That might be fun too.
That would
would
be
be.
super fun.
Wow. Thank you.
Amazing. Yes.
And we have 2
seriously.
male therapists also on our team too.
Oh, how amazing.
That's very interesting. How
That's good. I like that.
I like it too, because but they're in a
They're
surrogate.
good. They're very
Yeah.
approachable. Everybody has to be approachable on my team.
Of
Gotta-
course.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we see how you speak and how you're just,
Yeah.
like, hey, like, let's have a conversation. So it's your it's your practice. So of course they
Yeah.
have to align with you.
I hope so.
Yeah.
You're just a delight. We
Right.
can't thank you enough for coming on.
Thank you
Have
so
a good rest
much.
of your afternoon.
Okay. Take good care.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Ah, she's such a delight.
That just went so differently than I thought it was going to go.
Oh, because you thought she was gonna like have her little ruler out and be like,
No, you've dealt with the mental health aspect of it in the last decade. I have not. Like,
Oh, okay.
I only have my experiences from 20 some odd years ago.
Yeah.
And it was very different than how it is now. Very, very different.
I'm
And
sure.
I'm so happy to see it. I'm so happy to see it.
Yeah. Well,
In fact, she's so passionate.
yeah.
And she's made this huge just empire of somebody in every state. You can go to her one-stop shop.
Amazing.
You can make your own appointment.
know.
It seemed like you could pull up the calendar, and it just it lets you be a little bit in control of what you have to go through to get your psych eval.
Yeah.
And she's the head of all of it, Andrea. It's like, I can only imagine what the rest of her therapists are. They must be all phenomenal. Because
I
they
know.
have to exude, like she said,
Yeah.
vision. Yeah. This was very interesting to me. Very.
I can't appreciate you enough, Andrea, for coming on, because
Yes, thank you so much.
So it
And
was
then
just
her suggestions of maybe having like a panel, and we'll have to dig deep into that and see how we can make that work.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful for a lot of people to understand and to get answers and know that getting your psych eval is not as terrifying as it
Take
may
another
seem.
layer off. Take another, peel back that onion and say, hey, it's just a conversation.
Yeah,
It
just
should
an
always
conversation.
just be a conversation.
They're not judging you. They're just trying to make sure that this is
Trying to get to know
going to
you.
be fine.
Just what's your story? Why do you want to do this? Makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
A lot of sense.
All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to Stop.Sit.Surrogate. If you guys have any questions, or if you guys would like to share your story with us, please feel free to message me on Instagram at Stop.Sit.Surrogate. And yeah, we'll see you. We're weekly now, you guys.
Seem to be. This has been Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen. Take care, everyone.
Bye.